of advanced hunting in the shooting sports. I'm pretty excited to be here with you guys. We have Eric Edwards from Missouri Department of Conservation, Missouri Conservation Department, and then Todd Holmes from the Pennsylvania Game Commission. I've been fortunate to work with both of these gentlemen for at least 8 years, with each. So it's kind of cool to have this conversation with them today. This webinar or this coffee hour is special because we're coming up on the heels of the webinar last week where we had Ben from Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation give us an insight on his online training tool for coaches and about the Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation programs as a whole. So what we're trying to do through our webinars and coffee hours and everything is help to highlight the opportunities of creating an independent target shooter archery strategy, hence the question we posed to everyone. So each state handles it a little bit different. Here are 2 states that have different approaches, but they've been working in these positions for a while. So please consider them, you're a resource, even on the call now, but going forward too. And what we're going to do is allow Eric and Todd to introduce themselves for a couple minutes each. And we have some questions that we've structured out. It's a little different than our other calls, just for the conversation. And then if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the bottom right. And you can use the little hand icon in the top to show you have a question. You can raise your hand and I'll see it alongside your name in the bar. And then we can start and include you there. If you're not talking, please mute your phone. We don't want to see any interruptions if we can help it. We know many people are also working from home too, so we get it. But let's try to keep the background noise down if we can. So with that said, join us, enjoy the conversation. And Eric, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and explain your position with Missouri?
Sure. I've been with the department, started in 2001 at one of our staff shooting ranges in the St. Louis area, and eventually moved up here to Jefferson City where our central office is at about 7 or 8 years ago, and took on the role as education outreach coordinator. That was kind of formerly known as our outdoor skills coordinator position. So I kind of oversee all things hunting, shooting, trapping, that sort of stuff, along with our hunter ed and shooting range manager, who happens to be on the phone call today too, Justin McGuire. So I'm going to lean on him probably at some point during this to chime in if we get a question or an answer I can't quite come up with. But so along with that, it was also our NAS program, and that's kind of how Samantha and I met 8 years ago.
Awesome, thank you. And Todd, do you want to explain your role with the Game Commission?
Sure. So I'm the Shooting Sports Outreach Coordinator for the Pennsylvania Game Commission. I came to the Game Commission from Juvenile Corrections in 2014. They put me in charge of the National Archery in the Schools program whenever I started, which I still run currently for Pennsylvania. I've also taken some other programs on, Explore Bow Hunting, Explore Archery. I'm also help in our Hunter Education Division. I teach all the different courses in our Hunter Education, help with our hunter recruitment, things like that. So kind of a man of many hats for our agency when we need it, but appreciate the opportunity to be here with everybody today.
Fantastic, thank you. And so while we were setting up this conversation for everyone on the call, we went through and kind of talked about how both Todd and Eric work on target shooting for their agencies. And both states are a little different. One of the things, the first questions I wanted to pose to you guys is, why did you select to work with target shooters in your archery efforts? And I know you guys have different approaches here. So Eric, do you want to maybe just explain how you guys approach target shooters as like a constituent group from your agency perspective?
Sure. Well, as we all know, when it comes to PR funds, target shooters, recreational shooters, hobbyists are big contributors to it. So we look at that first and foremost, and then we're blessed in the state to have a pretty robust shooting range program. We have 5 staff shooting ranges and about 60 unstaffed ranges scattered throughout the state. So we have lots of opportunity. We know quite a bit about the usage that those places get, and we are able now through event management system and registration process to know more about those shooters. So it seemed like a very logical group to kind of target in on and see how can we add more to those ranks and what can we do for those people that are utilizing our shooting ranges.
Nice. And we'll get into more aspects of that as the conversation goes on. And Todd, how do you guys work with target shooters? Can you kind of explain that structure in Pennsylvania?
Sure. So in Pennsylvania, we actually developed a shooting range permit back in 2010. So that's kind of how we reach out or know who our shooters are. And they're just the shooters that are actually using our state ranges. So Pennsylvania has many more recreational shooters than just the ones that buy our permits. We realize that. But as Eric mentioned, we realize that those folks are a giant contributor to our PR funding source every year. And there's a great value in recognizing that and recognizing them and working with them to hopefully nurture that relationship and continue the growth in the shooting sports, especially now more than ever. And so we feel that it's a great direction to head in, and we want to work together with them and continue to provide them resources and listen to them and try and promote the shooting sports as we move forward as an agency, not just hunting.
Nice. And how many target shooters does your agency work with roughly? I know you said, Eric, you have an event registration system, so you have an idea how many you're looking at there. And how do you know they're different? I think we talked a little bit about that already, but how do we know they're different than hunters too? Sorry, go ahead, Eric, if you...
Sorry. Yeah, we're able to use through our registration and check-in process with our staff shooting ranges, and then a few years ago we did a survey utilizing 4-H youth members to do some surveys of folks using our unstaffed shooting ranges. So so far through this through this fiscal year, we were somewhere in the neighborhood of about 53,000 users to our ranges.
Wow.
Those probably are not all unique users. We probably have duplicates and things like that in there, but we find that some of a fair chunk of the guys and gals that are using our shooting ranges are not hunters. They are just recreational shooters. I don't think that I have any hard numbers on that, anything recent anyhow, but it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 60% of our users at our ranges buy a hunting and fishing license. About 40% don't.
Wow, that's awesome. And Todd, what about you guys? How do you tell them different? You said you're focusing on target shooters and hunters. So as an agency, how do you tell the difference? And what's your ballpark number right now? How's it been going up to? We'll go that way.
So it's kind of an interesting way that we look at it with our range permits. Each year, the sales increase for the first 6 or 7 years every year. And then we kind of plateaued around the 11 or 12,000 permits number for a while. And we've actually, I think we peaked close to 14,000 a few years ago, and we've come back down to around the 11,000 permits sold this past year. But we also have our hunters in Pennsylvania who have access to all of our shooting ranges through their hunting license. So anybody that holds a hunting license in Pennsylvania has access to the shooting ranges too. You don't need to purchase the range permit. But we're fortunate in our state, we have a human dimension specialist that does some survey work for us and some focus groups. And we found some pretty stark differences between the folks that are hunters in our state and the folks that consider themselves as recreational shooters. So that was a great thing to utilize and have that, data available to us, and it'll help us address, concerns and focus points as we move forward with our shooters versus our hunters.
That's awesome. And in general, what we covered a little bit, but what resources do you offer target shooters? So you have, Eric, you said you offer ranges. You have manned and unmanned ranges, right?
Correct. Yes, we have 5 staffed ranges and about 60 unstaffed ranges. So those are utilized pretty heavily, but the big thing that I think helps recruit new shooters in as well as hunters, but probably gets people involved in other disciplines of shooting is that the programming that we offer. We do about 300 programs a year that are free and open to the public. Most of those are done at our staff shooting ranges, but not all of them. Some of them are done at our unstaffed ranges, but trap, skeet, beginning 22, I mean, everything from, how to mount your scope and clean your gun and everything in between. So I really feel like the programming, having the places to hold those are very important, but offering the classes to go with them are just as important too.
Yeah, for sure. And how did you decide to offer those specific services? Was it like a aggregation? You did one thing, it was successful, and you built on that? Or was it always in place? How did you kind of pick and choose to do programs and different range types?
Sure. Well, it kind of came out of a evolution of process when we started. We built our first staff shooting range in '73, the August A. Bush shooting range in St. Louis, and it was just a rifle pistol. Eventually, it got trap and skeet added to it. We then added one in the '80s in Kansas City, and when they built that one, they had a small little classroom for the purpose of doing hunter education. As more and more of the staff ranges came online in the late '80s, early '90s. Of course, then hunter education was a really big thing. We could not have enough classes. We didn't have enough places to have these classes. So the classrooms got a little more elaborate, a little bit bigger. And then we started looking at those classrooms going, we could use these for a lot more than just hunter education certification programs. We can have, basic handgun, basic rifle type classes in here, and then go out to the range and actually put that classroom knowledge into practice. So that's really how it kind of started. And then it just, we always asked for a long time on a paper survey, what other type of classes would you like to have offered, and just listening to your participants and growing the program base from there.
That's awesome. And Todd, you guys offer unmanned ranges, right?
Correct. So we have, I believe we're up to 31 ranges across the state right now. And almost all of those, I think actually all of them are on state game lands. We have a couple that are going to be built here in the near future that may be on a co-op property with Army Corps of Engineers. But for the most part, we have rifle and pistol ranges. We do have a couple brand new archery ranges, which have just been built in the last couple of years. We're hopeful to continue to add to those archery ranges. I'd like to see 6 or 7 at least across the state, a couple in each of our regions. We have 6 regions. We have a very strong archery following in Pennsylvania, and that's one of the things I'd like to continue to grow is our ranges that we did put in, the new ones are being used heavily. So I think that's a great thing for us to focus on moving forward. But also the rifle and pistol ranges, as we found through the focus groups and survey, we have a lot of people now that are using pistols for personal protection. And so our ranges were traditionally set up for the hunter in mind when they were originally built, but we're working with our engineers when we're rebuilding ranges or renovating them to include closer pistol ranges for the home defense or the pistol usage. So just closer distances is what's being requested. So we're trying to do our best to offer what our shooters are requesting and listen to their concerns. But Pennsylvania has, I think we're over 100 private ranges as well. So we have a ton of ranges and a ton of shooters. And one of the things that I would love to see us work towards in the future is some longer ranges that the state has. I think we have 2 or 3 ranges right now that go out to 300 yards, 200 or 300. But we're hearing a lot of requests for things like that too.
Wow. And I've worked with both of you for a very long time, but something that's coming across as I'm just listening to you share your stories and examples is that you know more about your target shooters than even I thought. You both have said that you have surveyed them or talked to them, and you're getting feedback from them constantly. It's not very often where we can respond to the needs of our customers so quickly, and it's cool to see you guys have that mechanism in place. Eric, can you help us you shared a really cool story about how you determined whether to get a range permit or not. Can you explain a little bit about that and how you decided to do that?
Sure. So probably a year or two ago, we looked at maybe having a range use permit. At our staffed ranges right now, or at the time, there was a fee. It was $3 an hour for the rifle or pistol range, or $3 for a round of trap or skeet. And we discussed the idea about having a range use permit, or maybe you're just regular small game hunting permit would suffice. And there were a lot of pros. There were a lot of cons. One of those coming from our enforcement division, talking about they did not have the time really to go around to our staff shooting ranges and check permits of people to see or do they actually have the right permit. They need to be out there looking for baiting sites and helping with chronic wasting disease and other issues like that. So we did increase our fees from $3 an hour to $4 an hour and $3 a round to $4 a round for a trap and skeet. But at the end of the day, we just didn't feel that it was worthwhile to require them to have a hunting license or a range use license to use our ranges. The other thing you have to consider here in Missouri is that we're blessed. We have the 1/8 of 1% sales tax, so everybody in the state of Missouri who pays sales tax, 1/8 of 1% of that goes directly to the Conservation Department. So in a way, they are paying their way to use that range already.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And I know, Todd, you don't have that aspect. That's a pretty unique model, actually, across the state. In general, so you have a lot of infrastructure on the ground. And
Yes.
you guys are able to interact with the ranges and the people visiting the ranges, some with the man, and then in Todd, your case, with the permits. When they buy them, you can talk to them. Is there any other evaluation you guys do of effort? So in the example that you used to make the range permit or not, that was like a great cost-benefit analysis, right? Mm-hmm. Do you guys do any other evaluation? And maybe, Todd, let's go there first. Do you do any other evaluation with your target shooting efforts?
So the only other evaluations that really I have off the top of my head are just our surveys and our focus groups that we put out. So this is relatively new for us. I think our first focus group was 2 years ago or so. And I feel like we really learned a lot from that first couple groups that came in and talked to us. So in the surveys that we send out, there's typically some shooting sports questions in our hunter surveys that we send out from time to time, which I think happen at least once a year, sometimes more. So we're getting feedback on shooting sports even from our hunters, even if they don't buy a shooting range permit, if they're just a license holder. We're still receiving shooting sports feedback from them through our surveys. But other than that, that's currently the best ways we have to come up with that information.
Awesome. And then Eric, do you guys do anything else on
evaluation? Yeah, so with our electronic sign-in system, we capture an email address. So I think it's once a month, maybe it's every 40 days, something like that. We take all email addresses and they get an automatic 10-question survey sent to them via email, and we collect responses that way. Majority of the questions are just kind of how are we doing type of things. How did you like the check-in process? How did you like the check-out process? Are the ceasefires, long enough, short enough? Do you feel safe when you use our ranges? That type of thing. And then we do ask some questions in there. What would you like to see added, improved, changed, modified, what have you?
Wow, that's cool. So you definitely have an aspect of technology on your side too. Really cool. And that flows really great into our next plan. So when we talk about recruitment, retention, reactivation, and we are talking about our strategies, you guys definitely have the habitat for the target shooters we use. How do you retain the relationships? You said you can email them, Eric, based on collecting their email addresses, but do you send them content or do you do anything else along those lines to retain the relationship with them?
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm almost positive all 5 of our staff shooting ranges have kind of a text alert thing that they can sign up for, so they can get text messages on what is coming up at the range, or certain classes we're having, or maybe once in a while we have to shut down for maintenance, that sort of thing. So that's one other avenue that we're able to connect to those folks as well as just, we try to stay as active as we can on social media through Facebook and Twitter and that sort of thing too. But the text alert thing seems to be pretty popular, more on the St. Louis side of the state probably than Southwest or Kansas City area where other staffed ranges are at. But that seems to be a pretty useful tool too.
Yeah, that's really cool. And in general, do you guys do content as well, like through your communications? I know you guys are blessed with a large communication staff. Are they doing a lot of target shooting content as well? Eric.
Oh, when requested, yeah, we usually don't get too much pushback or anything like that from our communication staff. Usually, if we have something that we need to push out statewide, they don't have any issues, and then we have communication folks out in the field too. So, yeah, they have to juggle a lot of things, particularly here in Missouri, with as involved as we are with everything. But they do a great job of posting any kind of relevant information or just advertisement of, hey, has it been a while since you've been to the range, or here's this facility that you may not know about, that type of information.
That's awesome. And Todd, how do you retain those relationships? You know how many people are buying license or permits, each year. Do you do any other communication efforts or anything?
So we do have through email. We collect an email whenever they buy the permit. We are able to reach out to them with any type of information. Like for instance, right now it's kind of a sore subject, but our ranges are closed. So we're able to get that information then to them right away and just make them aware of when they're going to open or how they're going to open, things like that. So we do have that resource. We also utilize our social media. We have a new social media specialist who's done a great job for us, and she's always more than willing to post anything that we have to help us out, spread the word, to get awareness up. So with August coming up and Shooting Sports Month, you'll see some posts coming from Instagram, Twitter, Facebook from us, encouraging people, especially since we have so many new gun owners here in the last month or so, to go out and utilize our range and check out our permit because it's an affordable way to go out and have a place to shoot and recreate.
That's awesome. I'm glad you brought up the new gun buyers. There's some resources coming out from our partners at NSSF and U.S. Concealed Carry Association as well, trying to help those first-time gun buyers take advantage of going target shooting. They might have bought for, not target shooting purposes. They bought for different reasons. But what we saw in other spikes in purchasing, during elections and everything, is that once people acquire the firearms, they might not go shooting ever again. And we know the benefit of, safety and making sure they're a good shot and the enjoyment they can have. But there's also a side of it with the PR side, too. If they can continue to shoot ammo, it's still generating funding for conservation. So there's that aspect, too. And it's kind of like the perfect storm right now. We've had the resources available, the information. There's new gun buyers coming to the market, and we're well prepared to roll that out. So I know Ann's on the phone here. Once we finish these questions, Ann, we'll give you a chance to explain the first shot, the National Shooting Sports Month, and other resources you have from NSSF's perspective, if you'd be willing. So thanks for bringing that up, Todd. Okay, one of the second to last question we have here is there any plans looking forward to expand your strategy? Todd, I think you said you had some ideas to add a couple new ranges in, and you want ranges in every region. Is that what you had shared?
Yeah, so one of the projects that I started many years ago was to get some archery ranges in our state. So Pennsylvania is known for archery and our archery hunters, and the IBO circuit holds the world championships here every couple years. We have national events here. We have Lancaster Archery here. We have Kinsey's here. So we have a really strong archery background in Pennsylvania, along with a ton of archery hunters in our state. And one of the things we were lacking is we don't provide them ranges. So archery is a little easier to shoot in your backyard, but not everybody has that opportunity either. So we found an opportunity to create some ranges using some PR dollars and give them the option to just travel 15, 20 minutes down the road and have a full range set up that's handicap accessible, that you can shoot broadheads, you can shoot field points. And it's just another resource that we can offer as an agency, saying, hey, we recognize that there's people that might not be hunters, they're just recreational archers, target archers, whatnot. And being able to show, hey, we know you're there, and this is a resource we're providing for you is something else that we feel it's important to maintain that relationship and to continue to provide or to stir the PR funds coming in for our state.
That's awesome. The broadhead range is a new concept to me too. I've seen them everywhere, but to put them on the game lands, it was actually when I was hunting and I had a sight in my own rifle, but Scotia, that I saw those. So those are really interesting to look at. And Eric, where do you see your plans growing? Are you going to add any programming or anything?
Yeah, we are always constantly trying to evaluate, just as everybody else are, evaluate the programming, see what are the programs that we're doing, are they effective? Are they producing a result that's desirable to us and to the citizens of Missouri? We've also been focusing more on if we add ranges to make a more kind of a joint effort with the community. We try to partner with towns or civic groups and organizations, things like that, to have the local community have some skin in the game, I guess, for lack of a better term. And yeah, we just built a pretty nice new archery park in cooperation with a town just south of St. Louis, Missouri here a couple years ago, and looking at maybe doing the same thing with something up just north of Kansas City. So with the explosion of NASP schools in the state, it has really gotten more and more requests coming across my desk for community archery range type programs. So.
That's awesome. I know ATA just overhauled their 3 guides. I don't think we have a link to it handy right now, but we can post it on the archery community. And I know Josh has too, Josh Gold from Archery Trade Association, or maybe Sam Seaton. But they just redid those archery park guides and strategies for putting in archery ranges. And there's some great resources. They've always been talented at putting that together. So it's cool to see that you're actually putting it in on the ground. That's really neat. And you brought up NASP, and we've talked a lot about ranges. What other programs do you offer? So you do NASP. Both states do NASP. What other programs do you do, like in the schools or organized programming? Eric, what do you do first?
Primarily just NASP. We do help or assist, I guess I should say, with like our state YHAC program. We also have the state high school FFA and club trap shoot, which is actually supposed to be this last weekend. So we normally have about 1,000 kids at that. We kind of leave a lot of that up to the 4-H shooting sports stuff. SCTP, AIM is very, very big in the state, but for the most part, we kind of are hands off on that side of things. But NASP is really, as far as in schools for shooting sports, NASP is the big thing.
And what does AIM stand for? I've heard of it. I forget what the acronym means.
Oh, gosh. I honestly don't remember off the top of my head.
We'll grab it. If anyone can type it in the chat bar, let us know. And Todd, as far as programming goes, it sounded like you had some new programs coming on. Can you tell us about that? Or you were adding some things?
Yeah, so we have NASP, as always, in Pennsylvania, and that's kind of been the winning model that we've had to go off of here for almost 10 years now. So our program's grown from 100 schools roughly whenever I came on. We're at 300 now, and we're seeing those schools branching into some different areas or looking for more. So NASP does a great job of getting kids into archery in that school setting, but once they reach that senior year, it's kind of like, okay, that's it, and then see you later. So we want to incorporate some other programs that would hopefully hold those kids or get them interested in more than just the paper side of archery. So we incorporated a NASP IBO 3D Challenge 2 years ago. It's grown, I think, 70% in the first year here. We moved it to the Great American Outdoor Show venue this year, which was a really cool atmosphere for the kids to shoot in front of a huge arena of people. And so that went off really well, and we're seeing more and more schools joining that program and getting involved in 3D archery. And actually the IBO has created a class just for the Genesis bow because of the growth in that area. We also have our Explore Bow Hunting program that we help. That primarily started in the school programs and kind of was taught as a next step after NASP. We've transitioned it to more of a state park type program. We found that state parks are able to put on 6 and 7 programs a year, even have summer camps with that curriculum. And then the parks also provide land that is open to public hunting. So it's kind of a good fit between the two. We give people the skills to learn how to bow hunt, and then the park has the property or the ground there that they can provide the land for them to actually go out and hunt on. We also have Explore Archery. That's another program that primarily are state parks. We have a lot of city parks associations or YMCAs that program goes into. And that's an intro to archery similar to NASP, but it's not in a school setting. Has tons of cool activities. I'm sure most people are familiar with those. But we have a new program we started about 1.5 years ago called the Student Air Rifle Program, or SAR. It's mirrored from the NASP program. It's a big entry-level air rifle course or curriculum that's offered 4th through 12th grade. So we piloted that last year. We had roughly 8 schools that jumped on. And right before all of the COVID-19 things took effect here, we had 2 or 3 more schools that were getting ready to come on board with that as well. So we're hopeful that that will continue to grow. I think it's a great opportunity to educate students in today's climate on firearm safety in a classroom setting that has an outstanding safety record to go along with it. So as many people know, NASP is extremely safe, and when it's mirrored after that program, you can imagine that it's also extremely safe. So they're the programs that we currently offer right now.
That's really cool.
Sam, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we've made really great gains at getting hunter ed back in schools, working with a lot of middle schools and high schools to get hunter ed curriculum in as part of their daily curriculum too. So although it may not be shooting sports, I think it opens that gate or that avenue to a bunch of students to possibly get into hunting and shooting sports.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. Thanks for bringing that up. I think Iowa had shared that Megan Weisskopf, they're getting more requests for hunter ed in schools too. Todd, are you seeing that increase in PA? Back in schools maybe?
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear you.
That's okay. Do you think maybe, is there an increase in requests for getting hunter ed back in schools? Are you seeing an increase like Eric is in Missouri?
So I'm not the direct connect for hunter education. We have a hunter ed administrator who may see more of them than I do. I do know that we have a lot of NASP schools that still offer hunter education during school or after school. So a lot of our schools that are highly involved in the shooting sports already are still offering those and still have rifle teams and things like that. But if there's an influx, I'm not the one that would primarily know for sure.
Got it. Yeah, you probably don't see that right away. Okay. Well, we've pretty much gone through all of the different questions. I didn't realize how long that would take. That's great. We've gotten some great information from you guys. We have some questions coming in. Let me see here. So far we have, Justin McGuire. I think this was about the unstaffed ranges versus the staffed ranges. Justin, are you on with ability to talk? Okay. Basically, he's just saying that the more rural areas show a majority are hunters, but the more urban ones that are staffed, the majority are target shooters, which is really cool. So location's playing a big part into that. I'd love to get ranges. Okay, so Tom Rao sharing that. Okay, just sharing some comments and everything. And now Nicole Nash, I know is on here, and Ann Gamauf. I think I'm saying that right. Both of you are on here. Both ladies work for the trade associations. I think Eric and Todd, you at least work with Nicole, right? Ann might be newer. So I thought since they're both here and they're both called in, those are some great resources for people to use. So I wanted to just give them a chance to highlight. So since Ann called in first, and can you highlight some of the first shots resources from NSSF, National Shooting Sports Month? Maybe take like 2 or 3 minutes and just let people know where they can get more information as well.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. First Shots is exactly what it says. It's an introductory program, makes it fun and safe, and gives people a chance to take their first shots in a nice, safe, easy environment. We provide you with all materials such as eyes and ears, targets, a little ammo, some safety literature, a handbook. We have a complete online portal with resources such as PowerPoint presentations that you can or cannot use. We don't really tether you to you have to do it this way. We completely embrace you developing it to fitting your needs. So I have a lot of your email addresses here, so I was thinking if you'd like, I can just send you some links for you to look at the First Shots program, and then you'll have my information as well. It is on our NSSF website, which is nssf.org. If you go under ranges, you'll see the First Shots home, and that's the First Shots Resource Center. So there's tons of things you can look at there. National Shooting Sports Month comes up every August. This is our 4th. A lot of state agencies have participated in the past. It's really easy, and there is a website for that as well. It's shootingsportsmonth.org. And if you list your events there, I'm the administrator for that program as well, I will send you promo kits of T-shirts and caps that you can use as giveaways or prizes or, however you see fit. There's lots of information on that website as well, what you can do. And it is seriously a matter of just listing what you've already got planned for August. Classes, events, anything you have going on. And if you feel that you want to develop a new event or something to draw more people in August, it's a great time to do it because I'll be sending you a promo package, like I said, of things that you can use as giveaways and entice people to come in. Hey, come in and take your first shots and get a T-shirt. So that's the gist, shootingsportsmonth.org. or nssf.org, and just look under ranges and first shots. And for the people whose email addresses I have, I will send you all a link. Thanks very much. Thanks, Samantha.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that information. And you can also post the link in the chat box if you want to do that as well, too. Really appreciate you sharing that information. And then, Nicole Nash, are you on from the Archery Trade Association?
Hi, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Awesome. Eric had shared how he's building community ranges, and I know you had introduced yourself, so I think you heard when we were talking about that. Can you expand on those resources y'all offer? And maybe the Explore Archery, too, and Explore Bow Hunting, since Todd mentioned those?
Yes, absolutely. So first things first, the Archery Trade Association created what we called the Archery Park Guide 10 years ago, and since it was a little outdated, last year we decided to revamp that guide. From those brainstorms, we created 3 guides total, and we now dub them as the Archery Range Guides with 3 different areas of focus. One is the community park, so for those that are looking to build an archery range at an existing community area or include it within the plans of building a new community park, this would be a great guide for you. We also have a guide that is focusing on temporary ranges, so for folks that want to try the archery thing, but they're not quite sure if archery programming is, the need for it is just not there yet, or they're looking to test things out. Or if you just don't simply have a spot to have a permanent range, there are many options to have a temporary range, and that guide focuses on that. And then for our ATA members, we have one that focuses on the retailer that offers classes and lessons within their shop as a part of a program for supplemental income. Each range guide includes kind of a how to put that range together, but also what's very important is the guides all include case studies, and we've selected case studies from several different great examples that we've come in contact over the years. And the case studies get into detail of how they perform their programs and kind of the results, the do's and don'ts, what they've learned the hard way, and what they look forward to focusing with archery in the future. So those are the guides. Within the chat box, I kind of briefly introduced myself and included that link that is on the archerytrade.org website. If you have any questions in regards to the range, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself. I'd be more than happy to answer any and all questions that you have. We do have some other supplemental things that go along with those guides and looking to create more this upcoming fiscal year. So if there's something that you're seeing in the guide, or not seeing in the guide rather, we'll be more than happy to find that information for you. Really quick, we did start a new program last year. We have a program grant that is through the Archery Trade Association for anyone that's looking to build a range, revamp a range, or looking to obtain some sort of financial funding towards their archery program. So if you're looking to host a certification class for your employees, for your staff, for your volunteers, you can apply for the grant for that. If you are looking to build a new construction of a range or a part of an existing range, you want to update the equipment, we can, that grant covers that. The grant process works as that we'll have the application phase open towards mid-summer, we're hoping. Last year it opened up in August, and it runs until December. So you'll have definitely plenty of time to collect information. It's all online, and we do require some additional information to get into the details of who you are, what your program is doing, and how it's going to benefit to help our goal, which is increase archery participation in the sport of bow hunting. If you have any questions on that, I will be your person for that as well. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. There is a link that I can include. There is a page on the website that includes all of the information, including the criteria and what is qualified and what is not qualified for the grant. And then really quick, the Archery Trade Association worked, this has probably been a few years, but we've revamped them on some curriculum-based programs called Explore Bow Hunting, and we also had the sister program called Explore Bow Fishing. Both of those curriculum sets include activities that are lesson-based, and each lesson has a hands-on activity that teaches the skill sets in order to go bow hunting or to go bow fishing. They don't replace a bow hunter ed at all, but they're used as a supplemental program to go along with that. And what's great about the programs is you don't have to teach each lesson in succession. What you can focus on different activities based on the needs of your program, of your class, of the demand. With Explore Bow Hunting, the skill set, there's only maybe 2 shooting activities that are included, and that's with archery. You can always adapt that into something with firearms, and or a lot of the skill sets are the same skill sets needed in order for wildlife viewing. It teaches about wind direction and looking through binoculars and deer anatomy and how animals work. So it's a great program that goes across the board for anything. And then Explore Archery is another curriculum-based program that we worked in partnership with USA Archery. It is a curriculum-based program that each lesson focuses on a different step of shooting. So with each lesson, each activity is a different target for them to shoot at. So then that way it gives a little bit of variation instead of shooting at the same target every time. It gives a little bit of chance to change things up, keep the participants engaged and learning, which is something that is kind of odd these days, of having fun and learning at the same time. So it's nice to see those activities work that way. I think I answered your question, Sam.
Yeah, that was great. And it's kind of cool because we did not plan this part, obviously, with the trade associations being here, but it worked out really well. And I was going through the question we posed, and only a couple of states said they actually had strategies in their plan, or some are looking into it. And so I'm wondering, we have Todd and we have Eric here. There's a lot of great resources called into this call right now. For those states that haven't started their target shooting strategy just yet, what's holding you back? Can anyone raise their hand or just type in the box and I'll call on you? Is there a reason you haven't? Has it been resources? I mean, as far as what we're hearing, there's tons of programs and different things out there. So maybe it's just a matter of time and capacity. And while we're kind of waiting for people to maybe raise their hands and or to answer that question, Todd and Eric, you guys both had the strategies in place, or did you actually have to kind of build that out alongside your other R3 efforts? Was that a strategic planning move that you did to serve customers, or was it already there when you guys walked in? And Todd, we'll go with you first.
So I was sort of lucky when I walked in. There was already a base laid for the shooting sports side of our grant and engaging that audience. So we've kind of focused on certain portions of it more than others over certain years, and some of that has to do with just resources available. But at no point in time did we say that we didn't feel that it was a worthy portion of it, because we understand how important those shooters are to, like I mentioned earlier, our PR funding. And I think the numbers today, overwhelmingly state that our recreational shooters are funding the majority of a lot of our PR funds. So we see the importance in keeping those folks and recognizing those folks. So I was fortunate we had it into our plan. We've modified it since then, and we're targeting different things and moving in different directions and trying new programs and things like that. But I was lucky whenever I got here, they already had it implemented.
Oh, and Eric, what were you, or what have you built so far?
Yeah, I just feel like I'll echo Todd's statement. I was kind of fortunate that, we had shooting ranges for a long time. When we moved, originally when I started with the department, our shooting ranges were in our law enforcement division, and then about 2003 we moved into the education division. So we kind of had a plan and goals and missions and all that sort of thing drafted then, and had been working on those for years. So it just fell really nicely into the R3 plan as I was writing it.
Well, that's awesome. And I mean, what was your greatest struggle? I don't think we got to that question yet, but you guys have been making some pretty good momentum, and you have some pretty high-tech resources connected to your ranges, and some informed decisions you're making. So where did you struggle when trying to make your strategies or expand upon them? Todd, do you want to answer first?
Sure. So, I mean, I think if anybody's familiar with R3, that's the struggle for us. And I think that, we've learned a lot, and I think that the hardest part is sometimes putting yourself out there and making some decisions or trying something new and, being okay with it not working. Because if anything, when we've done that, we've learned more to help us get in the right direction and change some things to hopefully help us make better decisions down the road that'll hopefully have a better chance of, being successful. So really, I would say just the biggest struggle was not being afraid of change. Change in a state agency sometimes is a difficult thing. So whenever you can embrace change and say, you know what, we're willing to try something new, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. We're going to learn from that mistake and try again and again until we figure out something. So I would say that's probably where, the hardest thing for us is just, putting yourself out there and saying, look, we're going to try something. We're not, saying it's the guaranteed answer or the right thing, but we're willing to try. And I think people recognize that, and they see that we're trying to help them and, create a future for the shooting sports and hunting alike.
That's an awesome answer, Todd. Eric, what about you?
Yeah.
What are your struggles?
I think the biggest thing for us was to get over the fear of what the truth might be. You know, like I said, we had shooting programs for a long time, and we just did it. We didn't really evaluate it or know much about it other than numbers. And so that acceptance to, hey, we're going to dig into this a little bit more and find out exactly where we're at, where we've been headed, where we want to go, and know that sometimes maybe the numbers that you were getting in the past weren't really telling you the right situation or the real situation, and being able to accept the results and build from there and goes. But again, kind of like what Todd said, don't be afraid to put something down on paper and try it and evaluate it. And if it doesn't work, you know, no big deal. Now you know one thing, what not to do, and try to evolve from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. The evaluation part of it seems like the evaluation part, especially if they're coming to your range and you're collecting their information, might be a little bit easier. It sounds like the volume of people you're interacting with may or may not be equivalent to your hunting population. So as you guys are building your strategy, did you set a goal of a number of target shooters you want to engage with at all, or a number of permit sales you wanted to have? Or has it just been more a strategy along the lines of, like, logically we think this is the next resource they need? Like, for instance, the broadheads because you have so many bow hunters in your state and target archers in your state, Todd. Do you guys have a set number you're going after that's kind of fueling your strategy, or is it more logic for you guys?
So we've never hit or come up with a number saying, like, yeah, our goal is to hit, you know, 1 million or 500,000 or whatever it may be. I think sometimes when you just base everything off of numbers, you're missing some important stuff in there. That's why I saw great value in the focus group that we did, because we were really able to see the needs and address the needs and even some of the safety concerns that we have at our ranges or with our permit users. And I think it was telling whenever we had that focus group and they raised some concerns or things that they would like to see change, and then the next Board of Commissioners meeting, we actually implemented that suggestion, and then you saw it happen. You saw the change take place. And I think that went miles with our audience of shooters, and the people that participated in that focus group felt like, you know, we were listening. It's just not show up and, you know, see you later. They understood that we're there for the right reasons, and I think that made them even more comfortable with sharing in the future, hopefully, as well as the other people that we may request to attend a focus group or take a survey or things like that. So not necessarily numbers based. I think it's more about the interactions with those folks and letting them know that, hey, you know, we're listening to you, we're here, give us some ideas of what you think can make these programs better, or, you know, what we can do to make our ranges better or more productive or more safe. And that's really where we're focusing.
That's a really cool example with implementing policy overnight. I mean, that's a great snapshot to kind of show trust and bring them closer to the agency as a target shooter. That's really cool. And Eric, do you guys have a quota you're going after, a goal, or is it more?
No, it's more strategy, and I feel like, you know, for the first 10 or 15 years of my career, and I'm using my fingers here as the air quote, the collective we, probably as an industry, relied way too much just on numbers, you know, and it kind of got us a little bit into the boat that we're in now. Sometimes numbers don't always tell you exactly what the whole story is. So again, looking more on strategies and developing pathways to move people along that continuum of get them in, get them hooked on shooting sports, and then get them try more shooting sports. So it's not necessarily really numbers based, but just strategy based.
Really cool. I like it. Recruit, retain, reactivate.
Yep.
All right, so we had a question from Holly Sanders, and it said, what did you call the state park archery program? I'm wondering if Nicole answered that question, Holly, or Todd, you had mentioned that you were building ranges on state parks. That was explore bow hunting, right?
Yeah, so we didn't build any ranges on state parks. We gave them the training to be archery instructors, and then gave them the explore bow hunting curriculum to use in their parks for programming. We left it up to the park to name them the programs what they wanted. So some of them were pretty creative with them. I can't recall all of them, but it was like archery in the park, or learn to shoot a bow, summer camp, or things like that. But some of them just kept the original Explore Bow Hunting or Explore Archery name, or learn to shoot, or things like that. So we let them have free reign over what they wanted to name their events. We didn't say, you had to use this name or whatnot.
Okay, okay. And then I saw Tom Ryle asked, are you doing anything with S3DA, Scholastic 3D Archery? Eric, are you doing anything with S3DA yet?
As an agency, no. I know we have a few S3DA clubs here. We have, I think there's a state coordinator for S3DA. They've come several times to our state NASP tournament and set up a booth, informational booth. Todd kind of mentioned his numbers for NASP. We're a little bit ahead of that. We were the 34th state, I think, to join NASP, and now we're number 2. We have a little over 780 schools participating. Before we had to cancel our state tournament this year, had about 3,300 archers signed up for the bullseye portion and 2,000 for 3D. And quite honestly, NASP has kept us more than busy, and so we just physically don't have the resources to do much with any other program at this point, as far as in the schools, things like that.
Okay. And then Todd, what about S3DA?
Sure. So we came to kind of a crossroads a couple of years ago in Pennsylvania where I'm a diehard 3D archer. When I was a youth, I competed for many years, and so that's always been a passion of mine, and we didn't have anything that embraced that side of archery. So we kind of had to look at both the NASP IBO 3D Challenge and the Scholastic 3D Archery programs and try and make a decision on which would work best for the state of Pennsylvania. IBO 3D Challenge ended up getting our bid just for the simple fact that we had schools that already had the equipment that was necessary to participate, and with that I mean the NASP equipment. So S3DA was a little bit different and required some more equipment to be purchased either by parents or family members or the students themselves. Nothing against that. I absolutely love the program, and it's just for us at the current time, that's the one that fit the bill a little bit better, and I felt like was more seamless transition into a 3D program for our state at the time.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. It's something that's coming across to me, and this wasn't by design. It's just how good you guys are at your jobs. You're very strategic in what you're doing. You have checks and balances, and it's a great compliment to you guys because that's really cool. It's great to highlight that here. I think you set some really great examples for other states that want to try to get in and start a target shooting strategy. I know we're coming up on the hour mark here, and I don't see any other questions coming in, and I don't see any hands raised. Kristen, am I wrong in that? I'm seeing the same thing as you are. Okay. All right. Then I guess I'll put out one final question for each of you, and well, two. Are you willing to share any kind of strategies you have for target shooting if people would contact you?
Absolutely.
Great. And
Yeah, I'm always up for that, and I think that we can all learn from each other. So I'm game for that.
And then last question. In the coming 12 months, do you see your efforts with target shooters remaining the same, increasing, or decreasing? And Todd, we'll go with you. And why, if so?
So I would love to see this increase. We have lots of opportunities in Pennsylvania. One of the things Eric brought up that I thought would be a huge thing for us is the programs at our ranges. So that's something that we don't currently offer. So being able to kind of enter into that and getting people hands-on instruction at some of our ranges, I think would be a huge step in the right direction. So I would love to see stuff like that take place. I think you'll see an increased presence of us online as well, and then August especially, but also the upcoming months before hunting season during the summer. And with us, we've done a lot of range renovation in the last 2 years and building some new ranges. So we want to see people go out and use those resources and know those resources are there. So absolutely. I hope that you will see more from us and hear more from us, and it'll be a focus for us as we move forward in the next year.
Very cool. And Eric, what say you?
Yeah, I think we're always looking to increase, to the maximum of our abilities. So when the current pandemic ceases and we get back to life as we used to know it, I think we'll see not only just a ramped up interest from us as an agency to get folks out and using our facilities, but an increased interest from the public as well to get out and go take the opportunity to enjoy those outdoor recreations that they may not be able to do currently. So.
Yeah, we had our board of director executive committee call yesterday, and there's a couple states represented on it and a couple NGOs and trade associations as well. And we understand the challenge that COVID presents right now, and we feel for every person we engage with and that's dealing with that. But the impact it's having for chasing people outdoors and connecting with the resources out there is just phenomenal. So we started talking about, like, how do we capture their attention and retain it moving forward. So I think you're spot on with increased interest just in being outside, but also don't forget those new firearms owners. They might have a chance to connect with those agencies. So it's been really great to have both of you on. Thank you, everyone else, for joining us on the conversation for the coffee hour. If you have any other questions or you need any resources, please always turn to the archery community. Our enrollment's still going up daily. We know you're stuck at home right now. So if you just want to start some conversations on there, that is the place to do it. We can tag links, find new programs. We've just started to dive into all the resources that are out there for you to make your target shooting strategy. So stay tuned. We'll keep bringing you more information. And thank you, Ann and Nicole, for also joining us.